Welcome back everyone, and welcome to today's Super Scientist fun practical suggestions that you can do at home whilst you're not able to be in the lab. After all, it is what makes science more fun and exciting. So today I'm wearing my Brainiac t-shirt because the East Midlands newspaper called me a boffin, so I need to show that I am. And this is my Brainiac Science Abuse t-shirt, which is a programme that I used to watch when I was younger that got me into wanting to be a scientist. I used to love that programme. There was a famous quote that they used to say when they'd blown something up, which was, "I can do science, me." And it just always reminds me of that. It's one of my favourite things. So, okay, so today's lesson is on friction, and I'm going to suggest to you lots of different practical activities that you can do at home to make understanding friction really fun. Okay, so what is friction? Well, friction is when two forces come into contact with each other and one force is surface opposes the force of the other surface. So we'll have a look at what we mean by that as we go on through these experiments. Key stage 1 are going to do a shoe experiment. Key stage 2 are going to look at bikes, toy cars, and they're going to do an experiment with a plastic folder and some washing up liquid. And key stage 3 are going to look at skateboarding, football, and they're going to investigate drag races. And finally, key stage 4 on the GCSE curriculum is balanced and unbalanced forces, and we'll have a look at those. You might be able to see a sneak of that going on over here behind me at the moment. It's just working its way in the background. Okay, so key stage 1, we're going to start off by doing an experiment on shoes and looking at friction. Now, you may have your own trainers or shoes. It doesn't really matter what shoe you use, but we don't have any Newton meters or force meters, as you might have heard them called at primary school, because they were all in our science labs at school. You might have some springs, which will be a really good substitute. But if you don't have any springs, it doesn't matter. We're just going to use a simple can, and you can pick any can you like. I happen to have tomato soup that I have placed inside my trainer, but it could be any can, it doesn't matter at all what it is. And you just need a shoe that's got a lace on it if you don't have a spring. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to drag our shoe along different surfaces. And I'm going to give you 2 techniques to do it. Just let me put the tray down. Okay, technique number 1, if you have a spring, you can make sure that that spring somehow is attached to your shoe. And I am going to just place it through my shoelaces, and I'm going to just tie my laces like I would normally. If you can't do that, just ask your parents to attach it for you. And then I've now got the ability to pull my shoe. Now the can just gives it a little added weight and support so that you don't pull it along too quickly and the experiment's not over in about 2 seconds flat. So make sure that your shoe is flat on the surface and take hold of your end of your spring and put some force on it and pull it, and just when your shoe starts to move, that's when you want to measure the length of your spring. So I've got a ruler here. Say it takes that length and then suddenly my shoe starts moving. I am going to, it's not very accurate at the moment because I'm trying to hold this at the same time. I would measure the length of my spring, okay? Now, if you don't have a spring, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to take my spring off. You can use your shoelace, but you will not be able to measure the length of the spring. So this is what you're going to do. It's not as accurate, but it's a good substitute if you don't have a spring or a Newton meter, and it does allow you to do the experiment. Take a mark on your floor of where you're going to start from. My suggestion would be that you just get a little piece of paper, a corner of a scrap bit of paper, and you put it on the floor just in front of your shoe. Then you start your stopwatch on your phone or on your iPad, and you perhaps go for 10 seconds and start to carefully pull your shoe. When you get to 10 seconds, stop your timer and stop pulling your shoe, and measure the distance from where your piece of paper was to where your shoe ended up. Measure the distance that the shoe has travelled. And you can then do this with your shoe on different surfaces. And I brought some surfaces with me, excuse me for turning away from the camera for a second, while I just grab some of these. I have got some greaseproof paper here. So that's the suggestion of what you could use. I'm just going to drop them to the floor, I'll pick them up afterwards. Here is a couple of plastic bags that I've got, that I've stuck together, that are clear plastic. Does that have any more effect, like on a carrier bag that's got print on it? Is the print a little bit bumpy? Does that cause any effect on your shoe when you're pulling it along the surface? What about a long section of tin foil? Don't forget to ask your parents if you can get these bits of material first. Try to make sure that each piece of material is about the same length and that you're exerting the same amount of force each time, as best you can anyway. Carpet, which you should probably just have on your floor. Bubble wrap I've got here as well, that's another one that you could try. Tissue paper that came in some stuff that I had delivered, that's a good one to do as well. So I've got some more paper here that's used as like a bubble wrap type thing, but it's not bubbly, so it's just wrapping material, insulating material as well. And paper towels, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do and all sorts of materials that you can try, and then you can come up with a science chart and record it on your science chart and see which surface travelled the furthest and which surface travelled the least, and just write them underneath your chart. Key stage 1, download the worksheet that's attached, because it will have an example of a table that you can fill in and some sentences at the bottom that you can fill in, the one that travelled the furthest and the one that travelled the least. Don't forget to like the video and have a look at the Pound Practical shop, see if there's anything in there that you would like to do during lockdown to make science a bit more fun, and have fun doing the practical investigation today. Great. Okay, so key stage 2, I want you to go a little bit further, and I want you to get your bike out, or even if you don't have a bike, you could use a toy car. Now, you've probably got a few toy cars knocking around. What I'd like you to do is get out your sheets and your materials and your surfaces like you just saw me do with the other key stage for key stage 1. And this time I'd like you to try and run your car along those surfaces and see how far you get. You could do a start point, and then you could just push your car and see how far it gets along the surface and measure it with a ruler, and then record that in your table and make sure you have a full table of results so you can say which surface your toy car travelled the furthest and which surface your toy car travelled the least. If you don't have any toy cars, then you can have a go at just doing a simple experiment to do with friction in your bike. And you could do this in your garden if you have a garden, or on your driveway or in your front lawn. But make sure that you are adhering to the lockdown procedures. So when you get your bike and you get on your bike, you know that when you apply the brakes, it applies friction to your wheels as your brake comes into contact with your wheel and helps to slow you down. Well, what effect does that have if your wheels are on different surfaces? So I'd like you to try 3 different surfaces, ride across them, apply the brakes when you reach a particular point, and you could mark that on the ground just by putting a ruler down. When you get to that point, apply your brakes, and then with your ruler measure how far you skidded before your bike stopped, and try it on 3 different surfaces. Try concrete or stone if you've just got slabs down in your garden. You could try gravel, and you could also try grass. Record your results in a table and work out which surface you travelled the furthest and which one you travelled the least, and why. download the worksheet and fill in the results on the table, and don't forget to let me know what you've been up to so that I can also send you some details back about what else you could do and like what you have done as well, because it's really important that you keep up your interest in science so that you want to do more, so that you find it really exciting. Okay, good. So Key Stage 1 are doing shoe experiments, Key Stage 2 are doing bikes and toy cars, and Key Stage 3 are also doing skateboards and football and having a look at drag races. Another thing that Key Stage 3 could do is they could have a go at trying to make the surfaces have less friction on them by applying a little bit of baby oil or Vaseline or washing up liquid, and see if that has any effect on the surface, and what effect that has on the distance travelled in your toy cars. I wouldn't suggest doing that with your bikes because it would be dangerous and you would skid and fall off. So Key Stage 3, you can have a go with your skateboard, doing the same sort of experiment if you have a skateboard. If you don't, you could do a similar experiment with a football, but you've got to be controlled in doing this experiment, because it's easy when you play football just to keep kicking the football and to flick it in the air. And for this experiment, you don't want the football in the air, you want it along the ground. And you want to try and apply the same force each time. So you don't want to be kicking it harder every time so it affects the results. So here's how you can do this experiment to look at friction and football. Place your football on the floor, outside on the grass, start with doing grass, and put a line where you're starting from. Gently tap your football and measure how far it has travelled, and then do the same experiment again on gravel, and do the same experiment again on your flagstones or your concrete or on the curbside. Just make sure that you are really close to home and that you're adhering to the lockdown procedures. And then record how far your football has travelled. Every single time you do the experiment, make sure you record your results so that you can put them in a table, and then again you can say at the end which surface had the most friction and therefore the ball travelled the least, and which surface had the least friction and therefore the ball travelled the most. Okay, it's important that you make that connection. Great. Okay, don't forget to like the video, have a look at the pound practicals, and have fun doing some fun practical science whilst being locked down at home. Okay, Key Stage 4, we're going to have a look at balanced and unbalanced forces. I'm just going to give you a practical activity to do today, and I have attached a worksheet in the description that you can have a look at after doing this practical investigation. That's a past exam question that will allow you to apply these principles of balanced and unbalanced forces. Okay, so I've got a simple Tropicana tub. It doesn't really matter what tub you use. You can use an upside down tub. Just make sure that it's quite small at the top and it's not a very large tub, because otherwise it won't work. You're going to place on top of that a ruler, and that's why you want this to be quite a small top, because you want it to act a bit like a seesaw. If you had a big tub, sorry, me dropping it again, just pick it up. If you had a big tub, then the ruler wouldn't act like a seesaw, it would just sit on top, okay? So you just want to make sure that whatever you use in the middle is quite narrow and small. And then you can place your ruler over the top of it. Then you want to get a couple of balls of blue tack, but you want to make sure that one is considerably bigger than the other one, because we're going to look at trying to balance these forces. We're going to use pivots and levers on here. So we place our ruler on here, and then we place our large blue tack. And if you notice, I have to move my ruler further along to balance it out so that the blue tack doesn't fall off. If I move the ruler this way, it becomes too heavy, it just falls off the end. So I'm going to pick it up again. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to play around with just trying to get it to balance with just the one ball on first. And then I'd like you to have a go with placing the other ball on too, and working out where you need to place it so that it is equally balanced, so that when you hold it at the bottom, it doesn't fall. That's great, isn't it? It's worked first time. Not all my practicals do, and usually when I'm in the lab they don't work first time either. But there is no magic and correcting it and editing it on here. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We try again, and I just make a fool of myself. I'm not bothered. That's everyday life. You have fun doing this at home, and don't forget to have a go at the GCSE worksheet that is attached. Please also like the video. That's me with my thumbs up. And have a look at the Pan Practicals and see if there's anything there that might interest you. If you missed any other days, then feel free to download those. The worksheets are still there and they're still available for you. You can just do snippets. Also, don't forget, have a look at my mind maps, which are available on YouTube. They're great for GCSE revision if you are a kinesthetic learner and you learn more by pictures and just by seeing things and short pieces of writing rather than long pieces of writing. And if you don't have an excellent memory for that, then the mind maps will be brilliant. Great, thanks very much everyone. I hope you really enjoyed that, and I will see you tomorrow for some more fun, exciting and practical science activities to do whilst we're all in lockdown. Okay, take care. Thanks everyone. Bye.